Good morning. My name is James Copp, and I'm a geology student here at Guilford College, graduating in a couple of days. And this semester I took Maia's Cape Fear River Basin seminar, and earlier this fall we went on a field trip, overnight camping trip down the Cape Fear River Basin. Down the Cape Fear River. And the goal of the trip was to get wet and to be submerged in the Cape Fear River Basin. And we were relying on the water in many ways. We drank it, we used it to cook, it was our entertainment, and it was our mode of transportation. As an avid geology student, I'm always looking down to see what I'm walking on and what I'm standing on. And on this trip, when I looked down, I found I was looking into the river. And just as reflection pools in stories show the honest character of the person looking into them, I found that looking into the Cape Fear River Basin showed the truth of interdependency between the people living within the basin and the water. At the boat launch, the chaos of cars and traffic and excitement was reflected by murky and turbid water. Further downstream, at the dam, things were congregating and building up on each other, and what I saw there was piles of rocks and trash and gushing water as humans had tried to manipulate the river. And further downstream, the peace and quiet of hikers, the solitary homes, and the woods was reflected by clear water, calm rapids, and a diversity of wildlife. After this trip, I understood that for people to realize the impact that they have on the water, they need to be in it and look in it and see its reflection in order to create a more mutually positive relationship with it. The relations people have with water within the Cape Fear River Basin vary, but we all must understand that we are dependent on it and therefore we're dependent on each other. The goal of this seminar is to have everybody within the Cape Fear River Basin become aware of the impact they have on the land, the community, and the water, and the impact the basin has on each of us. Through these presentations, we hope to immerse you all in the community, spirit, and joy of the Cape Fear River Basin, just as we were immersed in its very waters. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. How y'all doing? Doing all right? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? You sure? Yeah? Okay. How many coffee drinkers do we have? How many meat eaters do we have? How many water drinkers do we have? Everybody. Everybody drinks water. Everybody is mostly water. Okay? There are a lot of different motivating ideas behind the Cape Fear River Basin Studies program. Probably the most important one is that water is one of the most inclusive materials that we have. It emphasizes our connections to one another and to the place that we inhabit. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. There is no audience I can address anywhere to whom water is irrelevant. There is no person I can speak to who, after 4 or 5 days without water, would not turn up dead. Right? Does that make sense? Okay, good. So, my background is in the visual art. This is my 14th year at Guilford College, interacting with Guilford students. All right? And I have come to understand that in some very profound ways, there's a crisis in higher education that is mirrored by the crisis in youth culture. We spend far too much time cultivating artificial boundaries between ourselves and our own bodies, between ourselves and our futures, between ourselves and our place, and between ourselves and our fellow creatures, human and otherwise. So, I think that most effective education is driven by deep questions. If you were in either my version of FYS or the seminar, you had assigned and perhaps even read an article about this idea that truly effective students are driven by curiosity. They're driven by their own personal questions. Does this make sense to everybody? You awake? Yeah. You sure? Okay. Good. I want every Guilford student to be awake to their lives, to their futures, and to their place. So, I need an effective tool for manipulation. Okay? If I want that, and that's what I want. So, water is, I think, that tool. Everybody know where that straight line comes from? Some of you do, because you've heard me say the words Lord's Proprietor so many times you're about ready to throttle me when you hear it again. That straight line that divides Virginia from North Carolina, that comes from the 1660s. Charles II, the British king, survived a rebellion. And so he wanted to reward his loyalists. So he granted them, the Lord's Proprietors, all of the land below that line. None of them came here. They knew they weren't going to come here. They got that land to do what? Come on, you've been in college long enough to be able to figure it out. What was that land for? Why did they get that land? What?
It's a gift.
Why did they, no, not why were they given it. Why did they want it?
Money.
To extract resources. Yeah, absolutely. So if you identify as a North Carolinian, and this is true of many other states, but since that's the place we are, let's start there. If you identify as a North Carolinian, that means that your identity is tied to a line that came from the very beginning of the European slave trade. That came from the very beginning of extractive industrialization. What if our identity's in our place? What if we at Guilford, what if we in the Cape Fear River Basin defined our identities by a line that was here before humans arrived, the lines of a watershed? What would our educations look like? What would our categories look like? We need some kind of division. We can't deal with everything at once, right? How could we make more effective and inclusive divisions? That's the deep question that's driving this, okay? This program, for all of you who are not graduating, like James Copp, okay? This program that you're going to hear today this is the third year. We are figuring this out as we go. This is not the character of higher education. The character of higher education is, in many cases, you show up, you're sleepy, the time goes by, and then you're off. Right? Am I right? Okay, good. This is not the character of this program. All right? So, what is the character of this program? Well, some of you are in a first-year seminar that's part of this program. This is the upper class seminar, okay? There are two kinds of participants in the upper class seminar. There are historical researchers who are taking the seminar for the first time, and they have assigned texts, okay? We all, as a group, have shared inquiry-driven experience. We go out, we meet people working in the basin, living in the basin, confronting the contemporary challenges of the basin, okay? We have disciplinary and personal reflection, every one of us, every week. We try to make some sense of what we experience together. And then community engagement. That's what this moment is, okay? So we need you all, you sleepy people, okay? We need you all to help us be successful in this. I've got this listed in bullets. I've got it listed numerically because that's how our system works. That's how our language works. But it's not a bullet-pointed list that ends. It's a cycle, like the water cycle, okay? So if we are successful, some of the people you hear speak today, who, by the way, are all historical researchers, they're all doing this for the first time. Some of them will come back as independent researchers. By August 1st of this year, of next year, they'll propose a research topic. This program allows you to start a project which you can continue for multiple semesters, perhaps your whole college experience. Okay? I can't really get my together in 4 months, which is how long a semester lasts, right? So it's not really reasonable for us to expect you to move mountains in a semester. Make sense? Yeah? Good. Okay. So, at the end of this, we didn't really leave time for questions as we go. But at the end of this, I hope that all of you will have questions. I hope that all of you will consider engaging in the place more deeply, perhaps in this seminar, in this program, perhaps in a club, perhaps just by figuring out what are the questions that are driving my education. Why am I here? Not just at Guilford, but the big here. Okay? Thank you all very much for coming. I know it's early, especially for first years.